administration of these medicinal plants to the patients that have a symptom to be cured. So, and I kind of like mentioned that the first thing that is prescribed or diagnosed and prescribed and referral to take certain ceremony, use that certain ceremony. So, in the traditional ceremony, there is a protocol. In our traditional ceremony, there is a protocol. And one example, I'd like to, maybe two or three, but one, I will use that. If a person that you're treating is bitten by a rattlesnake somewhere on the body, has a mark, you cannot treat that person. Only if you have that same mark on yourself. That's the only way you can help that person, individual. Because there's a restrict law, protocol. If you bothered that person with the snake bite mark, and then that power is going to and you have to be careful. So I had that experience myself. And this lady was having a hard time, and after I did my ceremony, I administered the herbal medicine, trying to help her in a different condition she had. Just when I was doing that, singing and administering the herbal medicine, drinking it, she was drinking it. And right here on this side of my vision, I saw something like this. So automatically, I asked her, did you get bit by a rattlesnake? And then she said, yes, right here. And then she showed it to me. So I said, uh-oh, I'm in danger, I'm in trouble. So I said, you should have told me beforehand. Then I wouldn't have bothered you to administer that. So I got very, very sick. So I had to go to another practitioner. And that's the one that authorized me and ordained to administer conditions with those symptoms like that. You have to be ordained, even as far as given a name, and maybe even be given a tool to use to put that in your hand, and then you could touch the person's body like that. So that's really huge in Navajo traditional ceremony. People that are struck by lightning, a person that is struck by lightning with that same condition, they are the only ones that know the ceremony and they practice the ceremony. And they're the ones that can cure people with that same problem. And so that is huge in the Navajo traditional ceremonial practices of it. And then the other things that we have these, we call them jish benahavaha, jishiki benahavahaki. So let's say like a gourd box is a good example. And all the tools that you have in the benahavaha, all the tools that you have used to conduct ceremony. It's a one huge application. It's a medicinal box, and everything that you need, that you require to have a ceremony, is in that gourd box. And so let's say like in the traditional ceremony, maybe I have one medicine bundle right here that's going to be used to administer a symptom to try to heal that, and it helps that. Then I have another bundle right here, totally different from this one, and it's another one here. And then there's another one here, and then there's another one here. So the protocol there is you cannot bower, even though they're in your same home, but each of these ceremony tools, you cannot bower, take this out, and put it over here and take this one. These are already fully supplied. So, for example, maybe you have a tatadine, a corn pollen in your pocket. That's for your personal use. But then you have pollen in this bag, this bag, this bag, and this bag. So it's already in there. So you can rely on that. You can't take a piece out and borrow it to the ceremony. This ceremony is equipped, is fully supplied, and has the ability to cure that one symptom in that area. If you take one out, then this medicine bundle would be handicapped. You can't use it anymore. So you have to put something back in there to renew it, to have that ability to use to cure like that. So, and that's another part. So to be ordained with that medicine bundle, so that's the only way you will have to do a ceremony. That's really important to know in the Navajo traditional ceremony. And I would imagine that it goes with all medicinal or all ceremonial tools that we have. So it has to be that and how to use it like that. And then if you have a benhara, something like that in your home, to be a ordained Hathashi chanter. Let's say that, for example, again, so in the Navajo traditional ceremony, we say Hojonji Nahaga, prayer, blessing week, Shadot Ni Shino. So you're looking, you're searching, you're not Googling it, you just go out there, but you know your traditional ceremonial practitioners out there, and you know. So one of the protocols to have a ceremony for your child, your daughter, your son, even for yourself, then you have to search, you have to find that particular traditional ceremonial practitioner that is stable, that is married, and then have children, have a land base, a hogan, a house, maybe some sheep, maybe horses, maybe a sweat lodge, and because that person is going to come to your home knowing that that person has those set up at home to come to your home and to do a prayer for your son and your daughter coming from a stable, trustworthy type of a home, to invite that person, medicine, a prophet into your home to conduct a ceremony for your daughter and your son. You would rely on them, you would entrust them like that. You wouldn't want to just hire somebody that sings pretty, that sounds pretty. So it doesn't go like that. Yes, anybody can sing beautiful songs and have a good, beautiful voice that can be a ceremonial practitioner, but if they live in Gallup, if they live in housing, you wouldn't want to hire that individual because your daughter is the patient to that young practitioner. So that's for us to know, to hire a practitioner that's stable. That's what we look into hiring a Tahi, and then another one is very important, is that we have a lot of medicine men impersonators, right, John? They can doctor you. And they say they knock on your door and say, when you answer the door and say, hey, you look sick, I can do a ceremony for you. Put about $1,000 right here, I can help you. There's something buried in your house, and I can come back tomorrow. something like that. You don't go with that too. Stay away from that. As soon as you hear somebody drive up to your driveway, knock on the door and say, I'm a hatali for hire. Is not legit, it's a fake ceremonial practitioner. So you will be having a scammer. That's how they can take money from you. So we have to be careful with that. So with the NAC association in our administration, we give out medicine man license to practice, and they have learned from a master to ordain that individual, and they sign a certificate application that says that this is my student, and this person knows how to do the ceremony in its full capacity. So that's how we should be very careful with all of this. And then another thing is through the traditional ceremony too, ethics, law, law. When you go to a ceremony, let's say this is the ceremonial ground right here, and you're driving from that side, and then you're coming onto this premise here, this ceremonial ground. Maybe it's like 3 acres, a field, ceremonial ground. There's a ceremony going on there. And when you drive in there, and then when you park your vehicle, and when you step out of your vehicle and step on the ceremonial ground, you are ready to go to the ceremony, and you cannot be wearing a cowboy boots or tennis shoes. So we have to have a moccasin on, have a headband like this, and then dress appropriately in our ceremonial regalia, and we go in there, and when we go to that ceremony, we are not there to witness a ceremony. We are there to participate in the healing ceremony. There is a sick patient there, and you're going over there to help, to lend a helping hand. So you have the skill, and you're going to learn how to sing and then participate in that manner. So you're going to help out, and you should always bring something like refreshment, food, potatoes, flour, and give it to the cooks over there, and they'll serve you. And then through that, then you can be there. And then you can bring your bedding, your sheepskin, your bedding, and you can spend the night there all week and sleep there, eat there, work there, and help out the Advocacy throughout the whole week of the ceremony. So that's how in the Navajo traditional ceremony, in all ceremony, the higher practitioner, the one that we call Hatati, that person is in charge. You cannot, there's no competition, you can't out-sing him. Even though you have a loud voice, you have to just follow along, just right where he's at, and you don't take the song away from that individual. So you have to learn to respect that. There's order there. And then you have to sing the songs just the way he's doing it, the way he's singing it, because he's in charge. So that's really, really disrespectful to take away the song and just take off with it. Then you can help out along that way. So I find out something too, that when you do big, huge ceremony, like the 9-night winter ceremony, even though there's like 400 people out there in the cold, witnessing the dances, and they're getting their blessings in there. But between the practitioner, yourself, and the patient. There's only the patient right there sitting there. Again, no, that's your responsibility. So what you're doing is you're keeping your mind and body and soul clear and clean. So again, no, you are not allowed to go in the crowd or mingle or do visitation. You cannot go to the kitchen area. You have to stay in the hookah where you are stationed in there. The only thing that you go to is the restroom and then come back. So you stay put in there. You can't travel anywhere, and you have to administer all that what you are obligated to do for the patient. So a lot of these songs in the prayer and the ceremony, they go with this ceremony right here. The song, this ceremony has different songs, this ceremony has different songs, and this ceremony has different songs. In any way or another, in whatsoever, you cannot take this one song and put it over here. This ceremony is complete with all the songs and the prayers that's given to that bundle. You use it. So at the end of the day, we are instructed when we are learning the song discipline. There is a certain way to start a song and a certain way to, at the end, to kind of like stop the song to that one song. Because the song has a character. It is alive. You have to sing it somewhere to make its appearance, and you bring it to life. And it has a movement. It has a power to heal. So, when you stop that sing, and then you start another one. Again, it starts all the way from the top, bottom, and then you make it come alive. And you put that down, and then you start another one. So each and every song, maybe over 400 songs, you sing. It has its sound, music, vocal, everything. But you have to sing it in a way that it is clear according to the story of that ceremony. So pretty cool, huh? Yeah. So these are tradition. And these are still here. As a Navajo nation, we're still here with our ceremony. And it has that emergence, creation story, healing stories. And these songs and prayers are placed and put in there to render that healing of the medicinal herbal plants, the song, the prayer, and all of it. So they have to be perfectly set to utilize. And me, myself, I went into my first peyote ceremony about 1972. And I didn't go to that ceremony on the reservation. I went to Oklahoma, and over there, I didn't know what it was, but I went into a teepee and I ate this herbal plant. So it was fresh, cut, sliced, and it didn't have no bitter taste. It tasted real good. So I must have ate a lot, and so I was sitting there, not knowing what was going on. I was just a high school student. So I was all drawing up blank, and I ate medicine, and something was happening to me. I just sat there, exhausted. So when the singing really got after midnight, I guess you could say, really kind of like get into the movements and everything like that. And it was in Cushion, hey, right there, near close to home. So Larry Butler, George Butler's home. So they were singing. I go, I heard a song in the winter of this lightning. I go, lightning in the winter time, they turn off all the fire. It was pitch dark in the when that light came back on, I was on the floor. So I must have jumped up and landed on my back right there. And I was like this, and I looked around and quickly got up and got back to my seat. So that was my first experience in the Native American church ceremony. So from there, these relatives, they noticed me, and they started asking me a question about where I come from, who I am, and I said, I come from a family that don't use medicine. My father, my mother don't use medicine. So, and then they were said, really? Yes. So then they put up a meeting for me, and then, so they kind of like adopted me into the second box, Pawnee, and then Yuchi tribe, and to be a son to George Butler. And Carl Butler became my grandfather. That morning, I brought the water with Juanita and sat there by her. And when she took out the water, I stood and shook everybody's home. I made an offering over there. So that's when I came into Native American church ceremony. So when I came back from over there, and I brought back Oklahoma tune songs and brought it back to Tomahawk. And you know who stole it? Everett Denny. He took his knife into my suitcase, and then he opened the lock and he took it out, and before you know it, he was singing the songs that he stole. I'm just kidding. He's my brother. So I'd like to share that with you at this time. So back to Larry Bly's right there. And I should sit down, my brother here. They can say that's true. So I'm from their family. So
Oh, thank you.
Almost wrong.
Just want to thank Mr. Dr. Avery Denny. Just keep in mind too, relatives, the theme of this convention is beautiful thoughts and prayers for language, culture, and our tradition and unity. So with that being said, we'll go to our next presenter, Mr. Paul William, Jr. So this is kind of like the Grammys or the Emmys or something, so we're giving a round of applause. Like you all do at home on your living rooms.
Hey, I'm running for the president next election, okay? I get some supporters over here. Thank you much. I was told to stay within 15 minutes. That's what I'm going to do. I don't want to put you to sleep. I know you probably had a good meal at Golden Corral. In Navajo, they call it teach. They translate it into English. If you eat too much, what happens afterwards? You get bloated up and everything, huh? You have to get rid of that air. That's what that means, teach. So, but I hope you had a good meal. I want to thank all of you people out here from Montana, South Dakota. Welcome to our Navajo Nation, all different tribes. I thank you for being here with us. I'm going to stay within the Native American Church. I'd like to, I love this instrument right here, the drum. My younger days, that was my thing. You have to have good arm to drum. And drum for my brother here, Earl. We enjoy drumming. Rufus James, you know, Smokey Toy. And one night, David Clark here? No? Well, he was having a prayer service one night, and we went over there. My brother-in-law, Ralph Lee, went to his place. He was having a prayer service. I didn't know it was for him. So went in, and the singing went on. Back then, the songs were still very, very old, huh? Hi-yo, 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 hi-yo. That's all I heard all night. It's an old yellow, yeah, around close to Delcon area. And sitting there all night, and sat by the door. A young man came in on this side. He sat by the door there. After midnight, he says, "Brother, come over and drum for me." I was able to drum then. I slowed down a lot today, so. Anyway, that was Leo Harvey. He called me over, drum for him. That's when I got to know Leo Harvey. So thank you. I'll tell you this. I need to go back and thank some of our young people that really help us. They're not young anymore like my brother. He called me old man. He says, I'm probably old myself, you know. Right behind him, right on his tail as far as age. We just celebrated 53rd anniversary with my wife. 53 years of marriage just last week. And Anglo would say, 53 lousy years. No, not for me. I had a good time with my wife and really enjoyed. If people pray for me that I would meet someone, a lady that goes to a Native American church, that came about, you know, so that medicine is powerful. It's a pretty powerful medicine. And so 53 years of marriage. Right now, I drop her off at a ceremony. We have a ceremony for our young ladies, young girls for coming into womanhood. We say that in Navajo. So late Carl Dennison, his wife, Debbie Dennison. Dean, he's the offspring of Dean Jackson. That's my wife's brother, Jack Jackson. Grandkids of Dean Jackson. They're having a kinalta. Tonight, I'm going to go back over there and stay up with them, sing some songs for them, you know. So that's my plan. And this blanket here, just want to cover this for a little bit. You probably have your own ways about this blanket here. But the way I was taught, Sherman Daly, we always say Sherman Daly in our area, Steamboat. That man had a lot of good knowledge he passed on to us. Talked about peyote. One peyote. One wife, he says. Not two. One peyote. One home. One wife. That was his teaching. Take care of your family. Take care of your family. Save your money. We would hear that all throughout the night. And that's the way I picked up a lot of things from him. As far as how to use this blanket here. You notice on that, on there it says, we're not roadmen. We're not roadmen. Do you work on the roads? Do you guys work on the roads? No. This is a robe. It's called robe. Those that conduct services, you're robe man. When you conduct service, that's when you use this, you wear this one. Right? There's some people, some of the robe men, they wear red and blue. My uncle, late Smokey Toe, he had a white one. A white shawl he would wear. So you can, being a robe man, you need to wear, today is a robe day out here. But I don't see anyone wearing a blanket here. this medicine right here, this instrument right here. We need to be true with our medicine here. Holy medicine here. A powerful thing. So, how many of you are rope men in here? Where's all the others? Gosh, they're the ones that should be here. They're the ones that should be here. Because they pass this information, what we're talking about here, they need to pass this on to the young people.
Who?
Yeah.
It's really their responsibility. That's what I say. Those that are here, I thank you for being here. Pass it on to the young people. I went to first service back in about 1958, 59 to Oklahoma. All I saw was old people in there. No young people. Those old men just move all over, make those movements. Make it everything easy, the prayers, the drumming and everything. But no young people in there. What's going on at Red Rock now? That peyote phase out. Nothing. So we left out the young ones. That was the problem there. So we need to pass this on. All these laws sounds good. It sounds good. It sounds good. But how much of that do we mean? How much of that do we mean? Just like us right here. These laws sounds good. It tastes like sugar, he says. But do we follow? We need to, as members of Native American Church, pass this on to our young people. So we need to make it to the young people. That's the only one. That's the only one will carry it on. Just want to say this much here. I won't be here and put you to sleep. I don't want to do that, so I was given 15 minutes only. Oh, that's my name is, what's my name, Judy?
Paul Williams Jr.
There you go, yeah.
Should change.
And my dad, I don't know why he gave me that name. It's a lot of stress when you're a junior, huh?
Ooh,
You
yeah.
put a lot of stress on me. I have to take care of that name.
Yep.
I have to respect that name. That was my dad and my sister right here, Dorothy. My brother-in-law Jefferson right here, and my niece Colleen. Oh no, I didn't. So my mom lived to be 105 years old, and then my dad lived to be 97 years old. I don't know how many of you know. Yesterday was brought up sovereignty. Sovereignty was brought up yesterday. How much do we know about being a Navajo out here on the Navajo Nation? How much do we know about sovereignty, Navajo Nation sovereignty? Zero. Our leaders don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. Our attorney here, is he here? No, he's not, huh? I was hoping he would be here. Our attorney yesterday, he says, why? Put this in your mind. Why are we doing this? Why are we having this meeting here? When you read a book, that's what you put in your mind. Why? When? Where? Why? All those WS you put, then you'll find your information. I was glad to hear that. Put that why. Ask yourself why. Why are we having this convention? Who is it for? For us? Our young people? I say it's our young people. They need to know about what we do, what we're doing. I just want to say this much here. And I'm glad to see all of you here. My dad, my mom, back in about 1960, 65, they had a problem with a trader. Back then there was a lot of trading posts right here. I don't know about Montana. I'm sure they do. They traded with the native. They would trade lambs. In the springtime, they shear the Navajo people. And then they sell the wool to the trading posts. But they got a problem, they're developing, the trader guy came into my mom and dad's, home site. They load up their sheep. They load up all the sheep that the Belacana guy, the Anglo trader, took it back to his trading post and sold it. Some of them died. That's where the sovereignty started. When did it start? Where? Steamboat. When? About 1965. It took about 10 years to, he lost all the cases from here, Arizona. He wanted to have that court in Windrow, but no, because this guy, the Belacana, can't have it. So it was a jurisdictional thing. So he went to St. John's. Of course, everybody's against the Native American, the Laganas. Of course, he lost over there. Went on to Phoenix, he lost over there. San Francisco, he lost over there. And he says, but my grandpa had always had a traditional blessing with ceremony. He would come out and pray at the corral where the sheep were loaded. He would do his prayers right there. And my dad was always positive about things. He never said, no. But he says, I don't care. That guy might have all the cash, the trader. He might have all the cash. Well, I have my prayers, he said, my traditional prayers. So, he took that case on to the United States Supreme Court. The ruling came in about 1968. The ruling is in his favor. The sovereignty was there. It was just covered up. It was hidden away. The native people had sovereignty already. So they uncovered that sovereignty. So that's what I mean. We don't know what sovereignty is. It's a jurisdictional thing. We have a lot of power if we use that sovereignty. So I hope some of you native from Montana, some of them don't believe in that sovereignty. They say it's no good. It's interfering with our governmental thing every day, they say. But it's a big thing for us as Navajos. He said it's not only for the Navajos. This is for all the native tribes, he says. If you have it's a landmark case right now, known as a landmark case. So, the name is Hugh Lee versus Williams. Not my brother-in-law, his name is Jefferson Lee. His name was Lee versus Williams, a landmark case. That's the one. Thank you for, I started to talk about my blanket here, Trevin Bailey. It's don't call us a rope man. Through him, I was able to conduct some services. So this is our rope. We're rope men. That's what we are. My Uncle Sherman says, always wear your blanket like this, red on this side. You can wear it like this, or you can wear it around your waist like this. Okay? Which is fine. When you conduct service,
Yeah.
wear your blanket. This is a good way to go. And so this came from a brother of mine. His name was Cleve Derome. He was Oto, Missouri man. He had that fireplace from that Cleve Derome, and he passed it on to me. And there was a reason why. I never thought that I would conduct this service. A granddaughter of mine graduated from high school. She says, Grandpa, do you know how to conduct a Native American church prayer service? Can you pray for me? Graduated from high school, I said, yeah, I'll do, granddaughter. I've been going since 1958. I'm not going to say no to you, granddaughters, you know what I'm saying? So I did that night, and we had a good time, really enjoyed that. Today she's working as a nurse with her degree in nursing. So I praise this medicine right here. I'm not bragging about myself. That medicine is the one. He's the one. He's the one who will do whatever you ask for. Oh, this and that. So, the daughter that I have also through this Native American church, my younger days I was able to load up poles. I took my poles to 4 convention, this kind, local, Steamboat area. Load up my poles, my wife and I were strong enough, so during that time, we went to 4 different places, praying for our daughters, you know, that they would have, gain this education. Sure enough, it came about, so that was my oldest is clinical of a doctor, and she has a PhD in clinical psychology. I tell her, will you figure me out? Come back and tell me. But she hasn't, so that's okay, thank you very much. So I prayed that medicine. I prayed that medicine right there. Only son we had, we lost. We lost him. I still shed my tears. 15 years ago. He loved us way. He loved us way. Lost him. Went to work early. Didn't come back. That's part of life. And my son here, we put on a prayer service. We had a funeral service. Next day, we put him away with the song that we use. And that's how we did. To have that faith, talk about faith, love, hope, faith, and charity. How much do we mean faith? I think we're going to fall short. My Uncle Sherman Daly always says, oh, to the Missouri's right. You guys have too much, there's a lot of conflict with your Native American church and the Navajo way, he says. I know what he was talking about. The conflict each other. My brother just talked about his ways here. He said he has all the power. Yesterday I heard him, Avery. He has all the power, he said. But Native American church, we don't say that. We leave everything to the medicine. We pray humbly, you know, with hope, love, faith, and charity. We humble ourselves. What the help us. We don't say, God, do this for me, do this. We don't say that. We ask him for prayers. Anyway, he did. When we put our son away, he did that prayer service, and then we sent him on his way, the next world, you know. And that was good. I remember that. He prayed that night, and he said, on the way there would be paraphernalia here. Sure enough, I came about, you know, able to conduct some service for my grandkids only. I do that for my grandkids. So through all those prayers, our son brought us all these good prayers. It's that medicine. I love that medicine. I love that medicine right there. I'd like to see my brother here, Earl. Been around each other for some time. I was hoping to see my brother Ted Strong, but I don't think he's here. He was my best man 53 years ago. So, and then I see my daughter here, Mary and Harry. They came out and Paula. Thank you very much for being here. David Souza. I thought I saw David Souza here. And all every tribe, all tribes, I thank you for being here. Chutta, roughly. Thank you for being here. We just lost a nephew just last week. Put him away. If you allow me, I'd like to do a memorial song, if you don't mind. Later on, not right now. If you allow me, for all our people here, that I have a Hola So, didn't allow. Hola So, no longer here. Ensign Damon, those are the ones at the bottom. They have this peyote legalized. They said, but they never gave up. They never said, we can't do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it, they said. So, Hola So, John Damon, Robert Shorey, Shanala, Elena James Nota. I went to a lot of different prayer services with them. On the highway, on the highway, on the highway, on the highway, I remember him with this song there. Drum with him a lot of times. Should know could I go out to the go drum. Travel with him, so I think they did a lot. First meeting we had about this peyote on that one nation government said, you can't use this peyote, it's no good for you. We couldn't find a place here. So they met out here in an open area, in the sagebrush. And all these guys were there. That's about 1970, 79. Well, so it took a long time to have this peyote legalized. It took a long time. It's about that time when my dad and won that sovereignty case. That's when this peyote was legalized. He tried to go American Civil Liberty Union to help us. Well, American Civil Liberty Union says you have to go back and deal with your tribe. Go back and deal with your tribe. We can't help you. It was because of my dad's case on. And so anyway, this sovereignty. Right now, a Ghana guy can just come into your area and take your property. They can't do that. They have to go through Wonderock court process to get certified to go into your area. That's that sovereignty. Is all about that. So I hope that every day you know, Chile, we have all different clans, huh? I'm sure different tribes from. You probably have your way. My Uncle Trun was Eagle clan. And my grandpa was, they always tease him, he's a watermelon clan, they call him Johnson Koshwick. So anyway, you have your own clan, your own ways. But we have our own language. Truman Daly says, like I said, you guys have conflict with your ways and this Native American church. But the amazing thing, and he says, we can pray, we sit down and we pray together in a teepee. We understand each other through these songs. He said, he was an O2 Missouri guy, and sure enough, you know, that came about. Well, that's all. Thank you very much, and feel very happy about this. I've never been to a convention. This looks like when I went to college, university. It used to be like, I was way up there. The professor would be up here in the front, be talking, you know, I'd be taking notes, and kind of brought that memory back yesterday. So it was the lecture in a place like this. So thank you much, Nick. I've done this too. He's the one that told me to get on here. No, he says, hush up. So, I love all of that. So Tom Martinson, my uncle, said that peyote is very strong. He says, you can't mess around with it. You can't play with it. I thought I was a tough guy. He says, I'll go to meetings. I will roll up my sleeve all the way up to here. Show up on muscle. He says. One night I went to another meeting. I sat there. Old people said, that peyote is strong. I look at that peyote, it's just dry, nothing. I said to myself, it's nothing, it's just a dry up peyote, that's it. But they kept eating medicine, I guess, all night. And then, after midnight, that kind of got to me, he said. Everybody was doing their thing, and then peyote was starting to get up. Became like a human, he said. Big arms and tall, got up. All this time I was putting on that movement over here, hauling around and kicking and all that. That's what I was doing, I guess, he said. And then he spotted me. He started coming towards me, he said, like that. He came up right here. I had my legs up and I was laying there, hollering and everything. He looked at me. Hi, you. Looked at me. I slept out of that peyote that was on me, he said. So that peyote is strong, very strong. He said, so thank you very much. Share.
Ooh, yeah.
I want to thank Mr. Williams here. Really a fitting day because you all know today is Prayer Shawl and Prayer Road Day. So he was kind of upholding to the program, so I want to thank him for that. And also he qualifies for some cash door prizes, so I don't know if he's the only one here, but we'll go on. Okay.
Motion to take a 10-minute break.
Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break. We have a second by Terry Day here. All in favor, I believe.
47.
So you can raise your voting tools. Voting tools.
Majority.
10-minute break. Those opposed,
None, majority.
motion by
Terry.
Travis Chavez and second by. So all in favor, so we'll reconvene here in about 10 minutes at 3:20. And Frank White, then after that, we'll go to our NAC legislative chair. So you guys would take a seat for that one. So you don't want to miss out. It's going to be a good report relative. So I'm going to pick the day chapter slash NAC. They got the buffet here today, so really glad and happy about that. I'll pick the whole chapter. Also here this evening with relatives, we'll have 2 meetings, encouragement prayer meetings going on. Roadman Trevor Foster, he'll be running a meeting. Also, Emerson John, he'll be running a meeting as well. So, just FYI to the good relatives, what's taking place here this evening.
I'm trying to find my base. No, we're going to change 22 and 25. And then that. Come back on my backbone and shield. That's it. Should not quite have to be. Can't move it to check. zit ongeveer een jaar of zo. Die Gallup engines zitten we na. Van de topbouw, which we are in NAC, samen. Weet je, ik ga die kwam op die lijn. Ja, zijn dat, daar gewoon weer. Ceremonial. Daar moet je aan de staan. Have the group. Last three by yesterday. That's your problem. So, you went here, one. That's right. And you don't know. You know how any egg protect it. I used to run the routes. They take together a short thing. Major fitness in the phone. Yeah, I made one. No, you look at Marty. I had to go that briefings. Background check, what are you talking about? If you go to see the line, which you have to 해주신답니다. 해주시죠. 나중에 그들의 이름이 다르니까 해주시죠. investigation allowed FBI Tuesday, ako kunwara ng ilucha. Haring kita ko. Ako kita na siya doon. Di san zekin ya na kolichin na. Ay da chiti yeso ting. Sa ko na ay no chiti. Tuwa na siya iske na ta 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 ta. Kasi kasi na tayo. Üzerine bakalım. It's their choice, it's their problem. If they want to change it, they will change it.
Okay, good relatives, we'll reconvene here. So it is 3:21. So we'll go ahead and do a roll call again, my good relatives. So I'll turn this time over here to our secretary. It is 3:21. We're reconvening here. So Mr. Arkinson, Mr. White, stand by, and then we'll continue on our agenda.
All right, Ancient NAC of Pine Ridge. Ancient NAC of Pine Ridge. Dene Chapter NAC of North America. First Nations Church of Canada. First Nations Church of Canada. Fort Berthold NAC. Two. Okay. Lakeland Ceremonial TP. Medicine Fireplace. Monument Valley. NAC Cove Red Valley. NAC Omaha. NAC Rocky Boy. NAC Shanto. NAC State of New Mexico. NAC State of Wisconsin. NAC Steamboat Canyon. NAC Tuba City. NAC White Mesa. NAC Wisconsin Dells. NAC Wyoming. Steamboat Dene Half Moon. TP Medicine Society of Aguasasne. Oneida, Wisconsin. Oneida, Wisconsin, Half Moon. Winnebago, NAC. Yanawana Tapilam. NAC Salt Lake City. And Manitoba, Henry Travers. We probably could pull in again because there's Wyoming. President John Brady. Vice President Joe Holgate, myself, Secretary Jessica Paulus, and Treasurer Elroy Watson. That's Wyoming that just walked in. There's two of them. Wyoming just walked in. Two of them. So through the roll call, we have 31 voting delegates and 4 voting officers.
So I thank all the delegates here for making the roll call. We have a quorum here, so we'll go back to our agenda here. I believe we're still on our convention agenda here. So we'll go on down here to Uncle Earl Arkinson. Uncle here, we're just kind of highlighting some of our awesome church members here. So.
Taunse, Mahkumalantik, Dotentik. Greetings, relatives and friends, I said in Cree. Don't forget to go to Earl's restaurant. Just a little humor. Okay, with that, yate, kwasine. Talk a little bit Diné too, so don't talk about me in Navajo. Annie Wilson. All right. Okay, I want to say thank you for asking me to come here to talk to you. You know, it's a good idea, NACNA, to have the elders to talk about, you know, elders' advice, their wisdom. You know, I think that's a good idea for, you know, the elders to give advice, you know, to the younger people, the younger generations about the peyote way of life, to give, you know, our youth, you know, for them, the stories, you know, that go with this way of life. You know, the fireplace that I take care of, the Koshway fireplace, my brother George Koshway, the late George Koshway, and also our dad, Jonathan Koshway, the story that the fireplace that I have, you know, back in the day when the different tribes, they didn't get along, these warriors, they rode out of their camp, and when they rode back in, this one warrior wasn't in this war party that came back into the camp. That warrior was missing, so that that lady, that was her brother, didn't come back. So she knew that her brother didn't make it. He was killed. So she started crying. She started crying and went out by herself. She was crying. And she felt bad that her brother was killed. So she went up in these hills by herself and went over these hills. And pretty soon she heard this drum that you see right there. She heard that drum and she followed that noise. And it took her over these mountains. And she followed that noise. And so she continued to follow that noise. And when she went over these hills, there was a teepee over there set up. And at that time, they didn't use canvas. It was buffalo robes that they used that time, back in the day. And she followed that noise of that peyote drum. And it took her over there. And they were having a peyote ceremony. And that fireman came out. And she was crying all that time. Crying, and she felt bad. that her brother didn't make it. So she was crying, and that fireman came out and told her, don't cry, don't cry. And so he took her into that teepee, took her in there. And then when she looked in there, all these old men sitting around there had gray hair, long hair, braids, and they all wore buckskin clothes, traditional clothes. And that man that was conducting that ceremony, he said, bring her over here. Where that man, he was running that ceremony. Bring her over here. So he burned cedar for her, fanned her off with eagle feathers right there behind that altar. So she was crying and told her not to cry. So he burned that cedar for her. And when she was standing there, and she was still crying and told her, don't cry. So he fanned her off. And when she was standing there, and when she had her eyes closed, and when she opened her eyes, all these men that were sitting around that fireplace, they all turned into a peyote, green peyote, all the way around, sitting around. So it was this peyote that showed her this way of life. It was a woman. That peyote showed that woman this peyote way of life. Told her, don't cry. We're going to show you the ceremony. So that fireplace, I take care of. That's the story. It goes with that ceremony. It's really a humble story. So it's really a good way, really healing this peyote, where it come from. So I really get emotional when I talk about this way of life, peyote. So it's something good that we have, and it's a no play thing. It's real, and we need to keep it simple. And like when we go to meetings, my people in Rocky Boy, NAC of Rocky Boy, it come there, 1934. It's been like next year, 90 years we've been using peyote. And at home, we don't allow recordings. When you come there, our people, we don't allow tape recorders in our ceremonies. We don't want anybody to take away from peyote, especially when they have peyote meetings for sick people. And also cell phones. We don't want to record live meetings because we want to keep it sacred. We want our young people to know that. Also, it was brought up here that, talking in your language, it's very important. One of my uncles, he said that it's more effective when you talk your language in a ceremony, in a peyote ceremony. It's really meaningful, really meaningful. Like when you hear your prayer, when you understand your language, when somebody's praying for you, especially when they cry, when you could understand them from the heart when they cry, it's really effective. That's what he said, one of my uncles. So it's really true. It's really true. Language, it goes with the ceremonies. So I'm glad that I was asked to come here and relay this message. And I'm glad that what I heard here this morning, my nephew sang that Second Fox flag song. those people, Second Fox and the Cree, we talk the same language. So I was really glad, what a witness here this morning. And I want to wish this administration well, these officers. They're doing a real good job. My grandson, Ryan Wilson, he really knows what he's doing, with people from Washington, D.C. These gentlemen, these officers, they've been over there in Washington, D.C., they go over there on their own expense. They spend money from their pockets, like Wilson said. You don't have to be paid to go someplace for this medicine, to speak for this medicine, on behalf of this medicine. It's really true what Wilson said. So, I'm glad that I was asked to come here and talk about, for this medicine. Speak up for this peyote. And so I'm glad, that I came here. I was a 3-time president, 3 terms, to speak up on behalf of this medicine. We don't want farmers down there in Texas to plow up this peyote. We don't want them to destroy our holy medicine because we depend on it. We depend on it. We have, we don't want them to destroy this peyote anymore. So with that, I want to encourage this administration right here. And I wish you all well this upcoming Father's Day. It was established in 1949, this Native American Church of North America, Incorporated. So I want to say, I wish you well, all of you. And thank you for listening to me. So I'm not going to take too much of your time. I'm glad to see my big brother, Wilson, the people that spoke here, my brother, Paul Williams Jr., the other speakers that were here chosen to speak, and all the voting delegates, the voting chapters. There's a good turnout, huh? Over 40 some voting chapters here. It's really a good turnout. So I wish these officers well. A good job, well done. And also with the host here that's, we hosted this convention a few times. I know what it takes, and I see David Socio. David and I, we went to Mexico. I see him here. Also, I see a lot of good relatives here that I made. So with that, my son, Eugene, came from Oklahoma. Some of the relatives from Nebraska, from Wisconsin. So with that, I wish you all well, and God bless you this afternoon. So with that, my nephew, John, thank you. So, thank you. Aho.
Thank you. Thank Uncle here for his good words and encouragement. So we'll go down here to Mr. White. A previous, I know, Uncle, I know those steps are kind of taking a toll, but I know he's, this is a wonderful gentleman from the Winnebago tribe, former council representative. So we just want him to extend a blessing to him as well, and to share a little bit about the church and the protocols and
Mr. President, the executive officers, the delegates, congregation, say good afternoon to each one of you. Greet you with good feelings, and it's good to see this many here. When the president called me and asked me to be one of the speakers, he didn't tell me what to talk about, what I should be saying, but I listened for the last few hours, and The basis of our organization is this peyote. I'll give you a little bit of history concerning our people. About 128 years ago, this medicine came to our people. There was a gentleman by the name of John Rave. He went down to Oklahoma, spent some time down there. He was having trouble physically and mentally, and that was one of the reasons why he left our home. And the people down there, they took him in, and they gave him this medicine. And it enlightened him, it helped him, it healed him. So what he did is, he said, this must be something good. And he brought it back to our home. And he shared it with the rest of the relatives. Told them that what we have here is something good. It's something that can help you. And up until that time, our people, they practiced their traditions. And some of them, they put their bundles away, put their tradition away, and picked up this medicine. And they used that medicine. Then, in a short time, there was another gentleman. His name was Albert Hensley. And he journeyed to Oklahoma. And he came back. And he told the people that what we have here is something that will help us, something that will make things right for us. So from this gentleman, John Rave, he started this crossfire. And this Albert Hensley, the other way around. John Rave, he started the Half Moon Fireplace. Albert Hensley, he started the crossfire. Some of you are familiar with it. The crossfire, it's strict. And you stay in there all night, no water, and you sacrifice. And you fast all night. So these two gentlemen, they were instrumental in bringing that medicine to our home. And our people have been using it for 128 years. And we've used it, and we cherish it, and we try to protect it. And we become concerned about the things that we hear about what's happening with it. There was some gentleman that lived on the Winnebago Reservation and the Omaha Reservation. And the gentleman's name was Reuben Snake, my brother-in-law. And the other gentleman's name was my brother, Elmer Blackbird. And they were instrumental in getting changes done for all of us. They went to Washington, and they sat and they met, and they testified in front of the Senate. And they provided information for them, and they invited them around that fireplace. And they said, come sit down with us, experience it. And there was a couple that did. So from that time on, that law went into effect. And Elmer, he was the chairman of the Omaha tribe. And back in the, I think it was 1910, somewhere around there, our people, they had 4 staffs 4 staffs, and they gave them to the Omahas to use. And from that time on, you know, they've been praying with us. So what we have here is that we have a concern for our future, concern for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. And I hear them talking back home and other places. My wife and I, we lived on the Navajo reservation. We lived in Chinle, we lived in Tuba City, and we've attended a lot of prayer service throughout the res. We've gone to meetings in Wyoming, Colorado, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Texas. So we've been to the meetings and we've got to see, we got to witness some real good things. Got to hear some good words. Got to hear some good songs. I for one, sure would hate for that to go away. It may go away if some people, you know, get their way. You know, I mentioned the law that was passed to protect us. And they say that this is the land of laws, that we all are covered by some kind of law. But the way I'm hearing it, and the way I've read it, is that there's one corporation that is not abiding by the law. And we need to be concerned about that, is that we're going to lose it. We're going to lose what we have. And some of you may have experienced this. You know, in times past, we used to go to Texas, and we would get this medicine, and they would be as big as tomatoes. And we would take them home, and we would use them. But today, you know, they're as big as a pea. And there's a reason for it. You know, some of us were blaming the ones that sell this medicine to us. We blame them for it. But it's our fault. It's us. Us that's causing it. You know, if we don't take care of it right, and if we don't stand up for the things that our grandfathers, grandmothers stood up for, then we're going to lose it. Everybody knows that things evolve. Things evolve. They change over and over. And we see that changing happen now. Is that this medicine is here today, but may be gone tomorrow. We have to know that we can stand up. We can be united. You know, we have our different fireplaces. We have our different teachings, and we're taught those things. But the basic thing about the ways that we have is that we have compassion, we have understanding, and we have love for one another. And if we live by those principles, then we shouldn't be arguing among ourselves. We shouldn't be setting up standards that prevent our young people from going around that fireplace. It should be just the opposite. We should encourage them to come in, show them things, talk to them, be an example for our young people. I mentioned this earlier to somebody that I looked at the agenda, I looked at what was taking place. You know, I've heard it from this morning up until now, and I even heard it at the quarterly, mid-year meeting. Talked about our youth. They need to come in, is what they were saying. We need to let them do things, is what they were saying. This should be the time that we take these young people and say, pray for us. Pray for us. Set those teepees up over there. Light that fireplace and pray for us. Because we sure need it. Then same time teaching them. And I believe that these young people, they have a lot of power today. They have a lot of knowledge. A lot more knowledge than we had when we were young. And we need to harness that. We need to take that and use it. Ask that young man, give him tobacco. Pray for us. Yeah, I'm sure that young man would be more than willing to do that. We have, as I said, we have different fireplaces. We have different teachings and where the fireplaces came from. Our people, the Winnebagos, we do things a little bit different. They were given tobacco. John Rave, Albert Hensley, and then when they came back, we in our tribe we know that this tobacco is sacred, and we used it for a different purpose. And what we've done is that we've taken part of the traditional ways that we have, and part of the Native American church ways, combine them. But we use cedar around our fireplace. We use that. And around our fireplace, you can be married, you can be buried, and you can be baptized. That's the way that we try to do things back home. We try to do it in a good way. We want people to feel good. And there's a combination of our tradition and our peyote ways. So I should have said at the beginning that I was only going to talk 16 minutes. But it sounds like I've talked a little bit longer than that. And say thank you to each one of you, for being here and taking part in what's going on. I was telling one of the officers yesterday, I said, we don't have enough room in here. I said, last year we had probably twice the number as we do today. But it's good to see this many here to take part and to be concerned about what's going on. And I too want to compliment the President, Vice President, Treasurer, Secretary, and our lawyer. They're doing things that we should encourage them to do and be supportive. We don't know how things are going to be next year. We don't know if there's going to be some interference again. But if we stand united, then we're going to be all right. I believe that the officers that were nominated and elected, they're doing an outstanding job. They have, and So I'm going to say that much, relatives. You know, no matter what, we're all related. So thank you very much for your attention.
I want to thank all our presenters, so we're going to close it up here with our legal rep, and then we'll go on legislative chair, stand by. So Mr. Jones, you could do frosting on a cake this Friday afternoon.
Yat A. Chick Ado, Shidnado, Shilkahasnilo. Ado Iyaha. Bedak Egit Ago, Shady but Ahnido Nensle. Tratnes Zahni, Evashin, Kintlichi, Edash Shado, Ashi, Edashinale. Ago Yat Ein Hidinido Lich, Bedak Egit Ago. Ado Sensad Aholia. Ado ist in leho. Akoyat Arnold Schobedak Egit out. Want to say good afternoon to everyone here. However way those of you that we know one another, however way that we made relations, days, times, weeks, months, years ago, address you like that as well. And those that I just met here yesterday, today, will meet tomorrow, however way that we're going to be related and make relations. That's the way I want to greet you here today. I want to thank the committee here, the president, my brother, vice president, my brother, secretary, treasurer, my niece here, and then my uncle here, the officers, and then as well as all of the board and the delegates and the organization as a whole, and all card-carrying members, and even if you're not a card-carrying member but have faith in this peyote, I want to say thank you for making your way over here to Newton, Georgia, New Mexico. And I want to say, I don't want to say welcome because I don't live here, so thank you for being here. It was an interesting journey for the past 2 years for me. I often tell my relatives, I'm not an NAC convention person. And what does that mean? That means that I was really never involved in a convention or anything like that for a long time. And it was just out of the I want to say coincidence or anything, but my brother and my sister, Rebecca, called upon me when they took office here some time ago. We have our relationship with my brother and my sister over there we have sacrifice relationships with one another, and then our mom and our folks at home. And so through that, it was an honor, more like, to assist the organization here as far as the preservation, protection of this sacrament, the Zekina. And I thought it was very much a full circle that I came around, because my mother would tell me that when you were still inside my womb, I would bring you into these nahaga, zebe nahaga. You were eating this medicine when you were still in my womb. That's what she would tell me. And throughout the course of my life, my mother and my father, they were very much practitioners, participants, and caretakers of this azehina at our home there in Rock Point, Arizona. And so through that, that's how my upbringing was, in a ceremonial, traditional manner. But in there, my father said that I did not have enough education for me to get somewhere in this life. As he would say in Navajo, And so that took him into the service, served this country, and then he came home, and then he had a job, and that's how he raised us. There's 5 sisters of mine. There I have no brothers. But the upbringing was within the realm of this Zekina. The upbringing was within the spirit of this Zekina. And the value system and the protocols and the decorums that go with this Zekina was very much lived day to day in our home and still is today. And so through that, I had a good opportunity, as my mother and my father would say in the morning when they would sit together and pray. That's all they said. They never went very far in education. And so, through that simple prayer, it took me through the course of my education, got to serve this country, and today, the person that I am. And so in hindsight, you could say that a testimony of my mother and my father, a testimony of how beautiful this Zekina is. It's not jinn, it's not thoughts, it's not git eshashin, ban atin. I just came from a hearing a little while ago. We had a 2-hour hearing. And the hearing was about a lawsuit that I filed against the Navajo Nation for a wrong that they were doing on elections. It was a wrong that was done. To prove to the court, to say that this law is wrong, it took the power and the voice away from all of you chapters in either to elect your own school boards. That's what the hearing was about. Because for the longest time, we talked about local control. We talked about mothers and fathers, and their voice to be heard at the local school board level, to determine and mandate what they wanted to be taught to their children, not what the federal government would mandate, not what Window Rock would mandate or the state of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. It is you. That would be the what you teach our children within the sovereign Navajo Nation. That's what the issue is before the court. So, it is an irony here that we talk about this medicine. We've been talking about it since yesterday in this convention type atmosphere and convocation of all of you good people. A convocation of faith, different levels of faith, different nurturings of faith that we all convocated together. With that spirit. And so we come together here, talk about all of these beautiful things. And I thank all of you for being here, for bringing that spirit to this place, and to bring that spirit to those sacred sites over there. It's sacred site because there are teepees over there. There were some meetings that took place last night. It's a sacred site because there was a prayer, it was a thought, it was a feeling. It was a belief that we're going to convocate at a place over there to light this sacred fire and put down our tobacco. And so, thank you for that. And so, my talk today is going to be primarily focused upon our young people. But take a step back. As a father, as a mother, as a grandma, as a grandpa, the responsibilities that we have as parents and grandparents to our children. They had their youth day yesterday. There was direct communication that was given to them. But we can't just do that. We have to be involved in it ourselves. Just like I used to be a school teacher at one time. I taught class. I used to be a school administrator at one time. And one of the things that I advocated to my parents, the students that were there, was that you have a tremendous stake in the involvement of your child's education. You can't just dump off your child over here and expect us to babysit them throughout the course of the day while you're out there doing whatever. You have an involvement in the education of your children. So apply that same concept here. We have a tremendous responsibility as peyote, believing, practicing, ceremonial people to ensure that we give that to our children. We have to do that. Because we talk about the preservation and the protection of our sacred medicine. We talk about that. We can talk about it in the sense of the legal system. Yes, there's that. We can talk about it in the sense of the governmental system. Yes, there's that. There's a bill, there's a legislation that becomes law. That's what we talk about. But this other part, we give very minimal time to that, which is to sit together and tell and encourage one another. We're not criticizing one another. We're not being any old way we're encouraging one another. I believe that that's what I'm doing, to encourage all of us, to motivate all of us, to invigorate your thinking and feelings so that maybe through that thought you might leave from here and say, he talked about this, okay, I wonder what he meant by this. Bing! You have a question now. You're going to seek that question and you're going to follow your question and there's going to be an answer over there. That's how this process works. And so that responsibility is upon us now, because if we don't do that, we're not preserving this peyote. We're not protecting it either. Because we're not going to be young, as you all are, forever and ever. There are a lot of seats that are empty here, my relatives. There's a lot of people that were mentioned here yesterday and today. They're not here no more. We have to continue that. And so through that is our responsibility today. In either let's begin to stand hand in hand and begin to advocate these teachings to our children. Now, being an educator, one of the things that we talk about in the classroom is how do you transfer a lesson to your student? There are several methods that we use in the classroom as teachers. Some of those methods we already have here. It's inherent in us. We didn't have to go to school for it. Case in point. Nobody told us how to be a father. Nobody told us how to be a mother. I'd be very surprised if I asked, raise your hand if you had to take a class how to be a mother or a father. I don't think none of you did. Because it's already inherent in us. So the ability to transfer that lesson to our children, it is inherent in us already. We have that ability to do so. And so with that, we talk about losing certain things. We're going to lose this medicine. We're going to lose this way. But let's stop and think, what essentially, if that would happen, what would we essentially lose as well?
In addition, what are we essentially losing as well as we speak? Our language is going. Our protocols and decorums and ways of doing things, it's going down. So in a way, you could say we're losing that. We're losing our ability to even address one another by our clanships and our protocols. Yat ehe shita'a shitshe shema shahastwi shenale. We're losing that. Rather today, this is what we're saying. Hey Pancho, hey Wilson, hey Avery, yat eh. Or hello, how's it going? What's up, dude? That's what we're doing today. But guess what? That is transpiring into our ceremony today. That practice, that mentality is transpiring into our ceremonies today, and we're losing it there as well. It's a critical state. Now, let's take language. I'm going to give you some examples for you to think about. This is not a tell-all and Justin Jones's 12-step to language revitalization or culture revitalization. Language. I was having a conversation with my children recently, and we were talking about language. We have to do that. We have to practice it. We have to do that in our home. These kind of language practices, we try to do that in our home. So then, well, sometimes it's hard to try to learn the language. We have a hard language. And so what are you saying? Are you telling me that you're incapable of it? Well, it's hard. Let me give you an example, I said. You boys over here, I know you all sing peyote songs. Okay? You sing peyote songs. You, nephew, you like to sing Oto Missouri songs. You, nephew, you like to sing Second Fox songs. You, nephew, you like to sing Navajo songs. Guess what you're doing? When you shake that gourd and begin to sing that song, you're talking Oto Missouri. You talk Second Fox. You talk Navajo. You talk Cheyenne over here throughout the course of the night, 4 or 5 rounds. So don't tell me you can't learn a language. See? Nobody asked you to learn it. No, you learned it on your own. So now, put that same concept and that spirit into your learning your language. So that's an example of language revitalization using peyote. We never thought about that. We never thought about your decorum, your protocols. Today in our ceremonies, we say, I want to say good morning from doorway in, doorway out. Alfred for sitting here, Betty for being here, and then Cynthia for over here, and then the fireman over there. What happened to, hey, my uncle over there for coming over? Because outside, that's what we say. Hey, Alfred. Hey, Bob. We don't hear that at the playground. We used to say that when I was teaching, I used to do a class on clanships. The rule in my class is that you don't address one another by your names. We're going to address each other by how we're related. So rather than calling me Mr. Jones, you're going to say, Shata'a. That part of it, we can begin to say that. So a rule at our home when we have TP meetings is that it has to be like that. If you just call by each other's names, then we won't respond to one another. But when you say "Sitsila," ya, oh, ila. These are simple ways utilizing our Native American church peyote ceremonial ways in either to revitalize some of these things. Even just our very basic ceremonial protocols. And I believe that my son talked about some of that today, is ceremonial etiquette. Those basic things. So when we say, there's an old teaching, is that how you act in this teepee, how you talk, how you pray, how you shake that gourd, how you dress in this teepee, how you carry yourself in here. That's only for one night in there. One night, anybody can do that. The key ingredient in that is if you go out that teepee and you live like that. You have to live it. You have to live it. If you don't, what did you do? You grandstanded yourself. You put on a show. That's the teaching. That's a dichotomy of things that we have here. So those are basic protocols and decorums that we have. So we have to do that. If we don't instill that, it's going to be gone. Then we're just like any other organization. We're just like any other group. We have to keep it unique. We have to keep it native. One of the most important parts of this peyote is the fact that there is a difference. There is a difference between a lawyer that will sit here or maybe show up by phone and try to give legal advice to an organization such as this, or even a tribal government, or any organization. There is a difference between that and a lawyer who will go to a meeting, roll that tobacco. That staff comes, go on like that. Can you help me out? Yeah, okay. Go along. And that medicine, the way that it works, the way that it makes you think and feel, you begin to think like a native. You think like a native. You think like a native that is ceremonially stable, that is ceremonially oriented versus none. I think a big part of our problems is that we have too many people that don't know anything about any of these things, but they try to talk about it, and they try to do something about it. If I had all the powers in the world, I would probably just hire all Native American church people and work and try to resolve problems. That's the key. So our responsibility is to ensure that our children think like that. Too many times today, we have our school systems, it's already geared like that. Our whole governmental system is geared like that. I made a video here on June the 1st when the Navajo Nation signed a treaty with the federal government, and I posted it. One of the things I said was that, why are we celebrating a piece of paper here? A piece of paper that we were not even invited to sit down and draft that paper. We weren't even invited. Nobody told us that, hey, Chief Narbona, Chief Manuelito Hukwo Kwete, hey, Barbancito Hukwo Kwete. Di Bakagi, put some of your language and thoughts in there. That never happened. Rather, this treaty was put there with blue coats, loaded rifles. We were given an ultimatum. You either sign it or you're going to Oklahoma and Florida. That was the ultimatum. And so, but there's a caveat that was there. Our chief Manuelito said, hey, wait a minute. That's fine. It's all right. We get to go back home. But here's the deal, my relatives. Let's learn all of this. Let's learn their ways. Let's learn their tricks. Let's learn everything using his warrior spirit, utilizing his warrior strategy, and say, let's learn all of it. So when we do, we can counterattack and diminish a lot of these atrocities that were. That was what was said. But think about it today. That same thing that he talked about, we're being sucked into that. We think that that's the greatest thing that ever happened. It's good. It's all right. It's good. I'm not saying that it's bad. Say, hey, Dr. Elwood, hey, Dr. Pancho. But let's take it from a native perspective and use that to our advantage. Let's put forth our warrior spirit and strategies and use that instead of just being sucked into that. That's what this peyote is about. That's what this peyote is about. So it's time as parents and grandparents that we need to begin to go forth like that and begin to do that. My gosh, I wonder where all those people are. I wish they were around my home at one time when I was growing up. Those people that say, you can't force your kids to go to church or go to the tippy meeting. I wish they were around. It wasn't like that in our home. You better get in there, boy. You better eat lots of that medicine. I don't know, man. And so then go to this shows the Auden Gisse. Esa John Trat, what is this Gista? John Trat. That's the kind of home that I was brought in. Today, it's totally different. Get to lounge around. I'm going to play with your cell phone inside our teepees now. Well, I'm going to go out for no reason but just to go out. These are things that we have to put back on the table in either for this medicine to survive. It was really good. My uncle, I got to go see his place over there about 2 years ago, the one that just spoke before me, Mr. Frank White. And there's something that he said that night that still resonates in my mind today. And I thought it was the greatest logical thing that I ever heard in a long time. In his sermon, he was talking about this medicine as a prayer. And he talked about the fact, he made this point. This peyote was made so that we could use it in a ceremonial setting. In a ceremonial setting to where we come here, either a teepee or a house or a hogan, what have you, but there's a fire here. There's certain protocols we go by here. And we have to sit here all night, but we have to eat this medicine. This medicine is integral. It's the heart and soul of this ceremony. You can't have it without the other. So today we're kind of changing things around. We can start a meeting maybe about 1 o'clock in the afternoon and finish by 4 o'clock in the afternoon and call it a meeting. We didn't even eat medicine. So if we eat this medicine, maybe if we continue to do that, this medicine is smart. It has thoughts. It has feelings. It may say, hey, these guys don't need me no more, so I'm going to go away somewhere. Then what? Now, this is common sense peyote thought and feeling and teachings. This is what we need to advocate to our children. Our peyote ceremonies are not there because you have nothing better to do. It's not a social gathering, my children. It's not a place to where who has the latest what? Who has the latest box? Who has the latest floral design? It ain't about that. It's totally something different here. Because remember that term I'm using? We're being sucked into this. That's what we're being sucked into. So, when people have been saying yesterday and today, let's be careful. But in either to be careful, we have to advocate that to the next generation daily, not just at the convention time every day. Because us parents, my parents used to say, as a parental advice, they used to tell us, don't just tell your kids this and that, show them and live it in front of them, then they'll follow you. And so I think that that's where all of this revitalization of language, culture, protocols, decorums. And I made a point yesterday, I read the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. I took some things out of there. And I'm going to read it again. In the whereas clause of the law, whereas the religious practices of the American Indian are an integral part of their culture, tradition, and heritage, such practices forming the basis of Indian identity and value systems. Think about that. Somebody already thought about it way over here. It's already in law also. So we can't say it's not in law. It is in law. So it's our responsibility. If nothing else, let's enforce this law. Because that's what it says. And so those are some things for all of you good relatives to ponder about. But not just ponder about it. Let's pray about it. Let's advocate it to one another. I always say this a lot of times to make a point. We talk about social ills so much. Every day we have social workers here, we have counselors here in this. But why is it that I never hear about, there's somebody put up a meeting, hey, we're going to have an anti-alcoholism meeting. See, you're laughing because some of you never heard that. We have a problem with meth. Let's put up a teepee. Let's maybe put up several teepees. Maybe our organization, we can send out a memo and say, hey, all of this weekend we're going to put up teepees. We're going to talk about meth addiction. How come we don't talk about that in our teepees, in our hogans? How come we don't talk about all of these things? But we like to talk about it at Indian conferences. We like to talk about it other places. If this peyote is there for that, why are we not using it? In either to begin to address these things. Think about that. So these are some things out. These are teachings that we have. These are the teachings that we have to transfer to our young people, our youth. But we can't just put youth over here and us parents disassociate ourselves from that. We have to be part of that conversation. So let's pray about it. Let's talk about it to one another. Make it a conversation at our dinner tables. Make it a conversation when they bring in the coffee and the cookies instead of just cracking jokes a lot of times. Ashaniya, kwege cookie di coffee, but not That's what I wanted to share with you today, my good relatives. Hope I invigorated your thinking and
I want to thank our legal rep here, our legal team, Mr. Jones. So we'll go on down to our old business, our NAC. I know he's biting at the bit. My brother, Mr. Ryan Wilson, if you can come on down. You can bring nephew. I could kind of accommodate him here, or auntie. My nephew here is a convention warrior. Yeah, he's always with his dad here.
Thank you, brother.
Hello.
He was running around here yesterday and talking out of the way. He said, I want my other mom. Where's my other mom? And somebody's, my brother, John Bitsui, led the naughty thoughts. He said, what kind of moms? How many moms? And all that. Kind of got me shook up. So I was looking for Wilson Aronoff to give me some relationship advice, but he was gone. All I saw was my grandpa, Earl Archie, over there. That guy's got no advice for me, I know that. My grandpa's a good one. So I just saying that he makes me happy, and he's always eager to join in, and he likes to sit up too, and he's in his little mind, he's aware of what's all going on, because he's always listening when we're on the phone. And every day we're trying to take phone calls, and every day we're trying to figure all this stuff out. So he's kind of right there. So I know Wilson said don't applause or whatever, but you guys can applaud this little guy, because he travels all the way down here. He come down a couple weeks ago too. He was down here. So. And I love all my children. He's the youngest is 6, the oldest is 34, and he's watching our trading post so we could be here. And I want to say ho-ho to all my children too. They watch this sometimes. They think I'm boring, but they watch it every now and then. And my brother Elroy, I'm just going to mention this real quick. He was talking about Wounded Knee earlier and what happened there. And I'll just add on a little bit, because that was our tribe. Those were Lakota people. They were Minnekosia, and they were also Hunkpapa. And they were coming to our agency, to Red Cloud Agency, because our chief was so powerful, all the Sioux tribes knew he could provide protection for them. They were trying to receive that protection. But one time back in college, and I was in college back in the 80s, I was daydreaming, and I was thinking, if Creator gave me a choice, like what era would I live in, what I could see in history if I could go back or even go forward. I was thinking about that, and my mind started going, and I was thinking, he reminded me of this today. I said, maybe if I could have been alive back then, we could have sent runners over to that camp and warned them what they were going to do. Warned them that they were going to turn those Hotchkiss guns on them, and that they were going to destroy that whole village and all those women and children, and for just practicing their religious beliefs at the time, which was the ghost dance. And, I thought about that, and I thought, geez, that's a tough one there. Maybe even go back further to the Little Bighorn, and we could have been a part of that when we destroyed Custer in the 7th Cavalry, led by the Oglalas, the Cheyennes, the Arapahoes, and that would have been nice, because it wasn't just that one man. To us, he was a bad man, and we knew him very, very well. Cheyenne people even had names for him too, and we did also. And I thought about that. That would have been really something to go back there. And then I took my mental flight kind of more modern to 1964. I would have liked to have seen Billy Mills win that 10,000 meters race. He's still the record holder. No Americans ever won it since him in those Tokyo Olympics. I wanted to be there. I was thinking that would have been something to see this boy from Pine Ridge and win. And I kind of caught myself and I said, it don't work that way. We're here. Creator put us here today, now, in this era that we live in now. And what a vital time. And I'm so happy that I'm alive now. I'm happy my grandpa's still here. I'm happy all these elders, these brotherhood fellowship that we make, everybody that's still here, these last of the first language speakers are still here. And we're witnessing it. And when our time's done, they're going to be teaching language on these apps and gadgets and recordings and things like that, but the real speakers are still here. These men in Wilson's Aronoth's era, they were raised by free-thinking people, horse and wagon days, and even before that, that original thought. That's what they were sharing today, so I'm happy to be alive. And all of us are decision makers, myself, all of you, in deciding what goes on into the future. And what are we gonna allow for our descendants to still have on into the future? And so with that in mind, I'm just wanted to mention that real quick before I start in here is we're in really powerful times. It's dangerous times. There's warfare all over the world. Our young men and women, at one time it was just our young men, but the women are out there now all over the world protecting freedoms and liberties that this era they didn't even have. Indian people didn't even have, and these warriors are everywhere now protecting that. And part of that too is protecting this way of life, what we're all here trying to defend. So it just in that little bit, I wanted to say ho to each and every one of you for being here, and I'm happy to be here alive today and to witness this. And to me, this is a great gathering. This is awesome. There's a lot of people here from all over the country too. And us Northern Indians, I was thinking about that today because we were driving by El Rancho Hotel, that's what it's called, right? Where John Wayne was, right? Where he stayed. And some of the Northerners, they hear these stories about, don't go down there, it's scary, you know. And I'm like, it's not that way. They're really nice. They're good people. They're awesome people. They're friendly. No, they're tough. They're really scary. They're tough. They're going to be mean to us. I go, no, they're not even that mean. I said, that one old movie in Monument Valley, John Wayne, he knocked 30 of them down with one hip shot, you know. Just one shot that I said, they're not that tough, it's all right, you know, come on down. So there's Northerners all over here. There's Northerners. And we watch all those movies, and there's another one we watch too called Cheyenne Autumn, and they're all Navajo actors playing Cheyennes in that movie. And then they're singing squaw dance songs. They're like these warrior songs. They're going to go kill the cavalry, you know, the squaw dance songs. We replay that and we watch it over and over. We get a kick out of it. You guys are movie stars. It's awesome. So there's one more. Someone in here, you can lift your hand up. Don't be shy. But somebody had a phone call dial today of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Who had that? I heard it. Oh, way up there. Oh, Clint Eastwood. Yeah, so that's what this whole thing's about. It's the good, the bad, the ugly. There's all kinds of stuff we got to go over, you know. But there's that one movie, Outlaw, Josie Wells. You guys seen that one? Okay. Little kids, cover your ears. So there's that one part in the movie where Clint Eastwood, there's a Navajo woman, she's acting in there, and she hooked up with Clint Eastwood and Chief Dan George, and they're renegades. The cavalry's out to get them, and Indians are trying to kill them too, and it's bad, and they're on the run, and they're camped out. He's got a fire going, and Clint Eastwood is a widower. Somewhere along the line at night, he got the idea to go make friends with that Navajo woman. So he got up and he went over and he put his hand on her shoulder, and then he pulled that buffalo robe back. But Chief Dan George was already in there. He was already, and he said, she started talking Navajo. Well, Eastwood didn't know it. He goes, she thinks I'm a chief. And Eastwood goes, whatever gave her that idea, you know? So that's our theme here. Whatever gave these pharmaceutical companies, psychedelic renaissance, whatever gave them the idea that there's a little handful of Indian chiefs out there speaking for all of us. We know that's not so. Tonight, tomorrow, you guys look up in the stars, okay? Look at the constellations when we get out there in the teepee grounds. Think about it, this Little Dipper, and I mean the Little Dipper. That's right there. The Little Dipper. All the rest of us is that whole galaxy. That's us. And we have historical representative bodies that speak for this way of life. Not that Little Dipper that's way off on its own. Us. This one here, 74 years old. Oklahoma, even older. Way back. Navajo land, what they call it now. All these, plus the National Congress of American Indians, they've always been there. The tribes speaking for this too. We got to get control again on who's speaking on behalf of this medicine, on behalf of our treaties, on behalf of Indian law, and on behalf of American Indian tribes, tribal governments, and so forth here. So we just use that little tiny bit of humor, and you know, we're talking about, I was picking on you guys a little bit about John Wayne and all that, but we got that John Wayne problem too. They made that movie, probably the best Indian movie ever made, Dances with Wolves. Remember? Everybody watch that? So Lakota people have been here since beginning of man creation. But somehow way in that movie, all summer the Lakotas were looking for buffalo. They were starving. Somehow way that white man went and found the buffalo herd for them, Kevin Costner. Remember? And he stormed into camp and Tatanka, you know, he showed us where the buffalo were. He fed us, that white man. And so then things got rough. These Pawnees, my sister's tribe, my brother's sister tribe, the Rickaras, they were gonna wipe out our village. Somehow way, Lakotas lived forever free out on the plains. Never had a village get wiped out completely, but they were gonna wipe us out. Kevin Costner comes through again. He finds rifles and he goes back to camp and he arms all of us, you know, and they win that battle. Why am I saying that is, we don't need another Kevin Costner. We can do this on our own. We don't need a millionaire causing problems and trouble everywhere he goes, everywhere he touches. And when this all first started, Steve Moore told us in an official meeting, we're going to create a nonprofit just to manage the land. That's all. It was just to manage the land that they had acquired. That sounded really all right. They didn't say they were going to be raising money everywhere on behalf of peyote, as if peyote is a mascot, something that we market to get money. They didn't say that there was going to need to be operational expenses to manage that land. That land was managed on its own for tens of thousands of years without any money. All of the peyote gardens. So what we're looking at now is we have to save ourselves. And we have to save our medicine to save ourselves. And we got to figure this out on our own. So we struck out and used what Pancho said, the old minutes, the old motions, going back to my grandpa's time too. And he worked with the federal government. He's the one that secured the right of American Indian veterans to use peyote while they're overseas, while they're in the service, while they're defending us. My grandpa did that under his administration. He didn't say, don't go to DC, don't do this or that. He stood up for us, and he knew these men were fighting over there. They needed our medicine too. And he made it that way. Aho to you, Grandpa, you know. We love you, all of us love you. And that you even shed tears here on our behalf, aho, you know, for that too. All we did was take what he did and moved it forward. He said, stop the root plowing. Everything's on private land. We got to figure out a way to work with the private landowners. So we created this proposal for conservation easements to be rented by the federal government and the Department of Interior and the Department of USDA to pay rent, basically, to preserve the habitat to the private landowner. If we do this right, the private landowner gets paid twice. The conservation easements, the federal government will rent to protect that habitat, and then the peyoteros will rent surface harvesting rights so that we'll have that medicine. We're trying to stick up for the private landowners. We're trying to stick up for what they need also, because right now they're being paid by the federal government. It's a program called Soil Conservation. You could write it down, Soil Conservation Farm Service Agency. And they're paying them to till up their land and then plant buffalo grass and other top crops for what they say is preventing soil erosion if they do that, but they're destroying peyote. So we went over there and we talked about what the trust responsibility is. So you have a trust responsibility for sacred sites, sacred lands, sacred landscapes. You have the National Historic Preservation Act. You have a mandate for tribal consultation when the federal government's destroying sacred lands. And we were the first ones to say that to this United States government in many, many decades. And they're working on it now. Everybody's trying to figure it out. And that's kind of because that's what he asked of us. Other elders asked us to work on the border also, so we're working with Homeland Security. We're trying to work on a uniform code of conduct by the border agents so they don't go rogue when they're in those outposts, when our loved ones are bringing their medicine across, their chiefs across, their articles across, their feathers, all of those things. We're trying to protect that as well. And then we're also working on, we're the ones, NAC, feel good about that, relatives. We're the ones that commissioned the Peyote Research Project 1 and 2 and the Walker Research Group. And in that findings of that, they talked about, they called it supply and demand. How are we going to have peyote when this church is growing and the habitat's shrinking? One's going up, one's going down. How are you going to handle that? Also, how do you do what they call regenerative harvesting? So some peyoteros are really good at it and some aren't. Some train their harvesters, some don't. Some landowners care and some landowners don't care. Obviously, unless the federal government creates a regulatory authority over regenerative harvesting and mandates that this be done, and then I'll exaggerate this with a point. You ever watch cable TV? They have that North Texas law. You guys ever watch that? You're not as bored as me. I'm always watching these weird cable shows on Law and Order and all that, but they always bust these guys for catching fish that are too small, and they'll go and measure them. They'll check their license. They'll do all that. It's just like Yellowstone Wardens. That's a good show too. You guys should watch. But I'm like, geez, these fish, they're not even fancy fish. Some of them are catfish and suckers and like what we think of. Of course, we're spoiled up there. We got good fish to eat and all that. But what we think of like kind of like junk fish. But those fish got more rights than peyote. Those guys will get a big ticket. They'll strip their license. They fine them. If you mess up more than once, you go to jail. They arrest you. All of that over there. Yet here we are, all these years later, since my grandpa's time explaining to them, we're still getting those little tiny buttons, right? But who's regulating that? Nobody. So the federal government also has a role in that too. And we should never, have to think that when you're buying that, that's what you're going to get. But what's going to happen is the price of medicine is going to go up too, and it keeps going up. Just like now, there's a range war going on. They're trying to rent and lease more land now, competing against the peyoteros. The peyoteros are trying to hold on to what they're leasing. That's why the prices are going up. And the prices are going to continue to go up. So I'm not just saying good news. I'm not trying to say the legislative report is all rainbows and unicorns. It's not. And your senator here and his staff, Ben Ray Lujan, his staff's worked really hard with us to try to get into the Farm Bill, a conservation program in the Farm Bill. But they don't believe it's going to be constitutional, and they've been blocking us on that. And what they're saying is it violates the Establishment Clause in the Constitution because you're singling out a particular religion. Our lawyer, Justin Jones, he wrote a real nice brief paper for us to utilize, talking points kind of about free exercise clause, which is our right to freedom of religion. Also, Congress has plenary power over Indian affairs. So we went back and we explained all this to them, and they said, good, take it to the Judiciary Committee. You have to go through them. They have the jurisdiction on this. So it's not rainbows and unicorns. We're getting blocked here, and then a door will open up over here for us, really beautiful too. We're getting blocked over here, then another door opens up. We just keep trying. We don't have all the answers, but we know we got to try. So be patient with us, and we'll tell it to you straight. We'll tell you the truth. We won't sugarcoat it or anything like that. So I'm just leading with that, and then I'm scared to ask, but do they have all the documents and stuff for everybody? Okay. The delegates, you all have the documents? And then we have a web page. John Brady, president, can give you the address, later. But these documents will all be on that web page as well. And I'm going to run through them like you're in front of a fire hydrant here. It's going to be really quick. But in these documents, we have a couple briefing papers that we wrote. These are just one-page papers that kind of go over the trust responsibility. They go over ARFA. They go over the habitat destruction and how we're trying to stop that. But in your packet, you're going to see the Interior Appropriations testimony for John Brady, Terry Dayish, Oliver Littlecook, who's chairman of the Ponca tribe, Keenan Grossback, Northern Arapaho councilman, and Don Davis. And then you're going to have the National Congress of American Indians resolutions too. One is called federal preemption. And as was mentioned, that testimony is by Frank Dayish. Terry Dayish talked earlier about state and federal supremacy and how that came about. Our resolution on federal preemption speaks to exactly that, which is the states don't have the right through Commerce Clause, through our Treaty Clause, and through the ARFA of '94, they don't have the right to circumvent federal Indian law. So this NCAI resolution, National Congress of American Indians, it talks about we need the Department of Justice to intervene with these states and their legislative efforts to legalize mescaline. Some of them even wanting to legalize peyote. For the sake of our values at NAC&A, we don't distinguish mescaline from peyote. To us, they're inextricably linked. They're symbiotic, they're synonymous with one another, and we're defining it for ourselves as a heritage molecule. So you could write that down. And one of our lawyers, I don't want to say his name because he's a good guy, but one of our lawyers said, well, who are you guys to say it's a heritage molecule? Anyone could say that. And I said, we're saying it because we're saying it. We're staking it out, that turf. We're putting markers down, legal markers too. And what we're saying is it's a heritage molecule, and in America, that belongs to us, American Indian tribes that utilize this medicine, that fall under the ARFA. So that's in there. And then there's another one from back in 2009, just so you guys, I know everybody always wants to say they had the bright idea first, they had this, that. This resolution was during my grandpa's time too, and it says, supporting the Native American Church in North America and their ability to harvest peyote, back in 2009. I wrote this resolution and it created the task force, peyote task force at the National Congress of American Indians, and it created a vehicle to establish a legislative proposal for a land refuge, a national park, some type of a protected habitat zone that would be funded federally for us so that we'd always have this medicine. So this come about back in 2009. We finally implemented it under the Brady administration, and he's the chair, the co-chair of the National Congress of American Indians Peyote Task Force. And we just met a week and a half ago. We just met, and we were visited by Cedric Black Eagle and Stephen Benally, and it was really a good dialogue we all had. And it's important because that venue is for everybody and tribes, peyote tribes. And Uncle Eugene Black Bear, he had his governor come. We had the Kiowa tribal chairman come too. We had the Shawnee governor come to that, and various other tribal leaders that are peyote tribes that were there. And then I'm going to move down. We have the NAC&A testimony for the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. They had a Farm Bill roundtable, and President Brady offered testimony for that. There's the Raul Grijalva. He was the chairman in the last Congress before the election of the Indigenous Peoples Subcommittee in the House Natural Resources with Teresa Fernandez. And he wrote this letter to all the leadership of the agriculture committees in the House and the Senate. And that's an awesome letter. You guys read that, because he talks about when he hosted the field hearing, the historic field hearing in Oklahoma back in October. He talks about the findings from that hearing. So we're not just making up stories here and fairy tales. This is the real. We put the request in when we were there. You need to do a field hearing, a congressional field hearing. You haven't done one since the 1990s. You have to do it in Oklahoma. The fireplaces that we all use, the modern fireplaces that are still practiced today, they all have their lineage from back there. And we wanted to honor those Oklahoma tribes. And boy, did they come out about as big as this room here, full of people. They came out, and they provided testimony and they explained what was going on. And he heard them loud and clear. So, but that was in October. A couple of weeks later, they had the election. Now he's the minority ranking member. And the new member I mentioned yesterday is Congresswoman Hagelin from Wyoming. And the Northern Arapahoes are working with her on our behalf as well, their tribal council. And then there's the draft consultation paper. I shared some of that yesterday. That's in draft form. And that is for tribal leaders and for your communities too, to understand that we have to take this out of the realm of rogue actors and nonprofits and into the realm of tribal governments defending this. And that kind of brings me to my almost my conclusion here. We when we say tribal leaders and tribal government, so there's tribes that are interested in this, and then there's tribes that historically they're peyote tribes as well. And we're trying to put together this coalition of peyote tribes. And if you guys can help with that, I know the Winnebagos, Omahas, Oglalas, Northern Arapahoes, Shoshone Bannock, Ponca tribe, Kiowa tribe, Comanches. These are some that are working on this and are interested in this now, but we need more. And for you good local people that are members of the Navajo Nation, the Dene Nation, here's a suggestion for you. This is my opinion, I'm not representing NAC&A on this. This is a suggestion from one person. You guys have a voice in your government. The last administration, whether you like them or not, the Jonathan Nez, however you think of it, had opportunities to work on this too, but didn't do it, didn't do anything. And when we were over in Shakopee last week, my brother Steve Benally said, I've been charged by the president of the Navajo Nation to unify everybody, to get everybody on the same page, to work with all the chapters and all the people. And he said that in a real good way, but in my mind, this is just my mind how it works. This is not to offend anybody. In my mind, I said, geez, by the time that happens, this Joe Biden that's in the White House now, he's going to be 6 feet under by the time that happens. There's going to be a new president. Every day we waste arguing around. What are we arguing about? Everybody agrees on conservation, right? Everybody knows it's all on private land. So we have to find a way to work with the private landowners. The only ones that know how to do that and fund it is that federal government. They have billions and billions of dollars in conservation. Not one dime spent on peyote habitat. This isn't controversial. Everybody knows we don't want non-Indians using this medicine unless we're really close and they're adopted in our families and they have Indian kids and we already made it that way where they can come around. I'm talking about psychedelic tourism. I'm talking about the commercialization, the commodification, the monetary. When the money comes in, that spirit leaves. We all know that. So are we going to keep wasting more days of this administration till everybody gets on the same page? We're not doing that. We're not waiting, right? It's okay to clap. It's good. If we waited for what? Till someone gets along and likes to be around each other or what? This medicine can't wait. And every day we're fiddling around, more land's getting plowed up. So here, get your pens out. This is just from me. This is not the official policy here of NACNA. This is what you guys can do at your chapter level, work it up to your council delegate level, and all the way up to the national office and your president's office. There's a 4-point easy. 4 points here, easy. Navajo Nation can request that the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs and the House Subcommittee on Indians and Insular Affairs have oversight hearings on ARFA 1994 and 78 in preparation for the 30th anniversary of the American Indian Religious Freedom Act in 1994. So by the time we meet next year, we'll be at the 30th anniversary. Oversight, congressional record, hearings. That doesn't cost one dime from Navajo Nation to request to the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs and the House oversight hearings on ARFA and peyote. Number 2, you could request alongside Native American Church in North America a comprehensive White House initiative on peyote that would deal with the peyote habitat conservation efforts, the federal preemption of the decriminalization effort, the robust tribal consultation, tribal border security and transport, and a regional regenerative harvesting authority plan. Number 3, you could request to the Office of Management and Budget and the Interior Appropriations, Agriculture Appropriations, to fund peyote habitat conservation. You could create those proposals to Congress. It doesn't cost a dime. They could have been doing this all along, relatives. All of your chapters could have been doing it. Peyote Way of Life went ahead and did it. They didn't need anybody's permission. They went ahead and did it. But the Navajo Nation needs to do it if we're going to move the ball across. And the last one, you can demand action and leadership from Secretary Howland on these issues in conjunction with other peyote tribes that sit on the Tribal Leaders Advisory Committee to Secretary Howland. Very simple here. It's not rocket science. You don't need to hire a big fancy lobbyist to push this forward. But what are we going to do if you guys don't say something to your relatives? You're going to be another year, another 2 years. Next thing you know, you might even have Trump in the White House again. We don't know. That guy is just crazy enough to win again, you know. It can happen, or someone even worse. So today we have an opportunity. There's a window of opportunity. Are we going to misspend that? And when we misspend time, sometimes if you fumble it with your own finances, we've all done that. You can always make that money back, right? You can always, it's going to come back to you if you behave well, spend it right, think good. Sometimes you might say something to someone and hurt their feelings too, then you got to work doubly hard just to be good with them again. But you can do it. You can overcome it. But you know what? On time, when we misspend time, we never get it back. It's gone. Are we going to sit around next year and say we woulda, shoulda, coulda, or geez, how about it? That would have really been nice if we would have done this or that. So this is your call to action at your local level and with your council delegates. And they're going to make it sound complicated and hard. It's not. You should expect lots of them. And this little brother here, he was saying I'm a nice guy, and then he's seen that other side. But when we were in D.C., but you know what? And I'm not name dropping here, but back in the early days when I was leading National Indian Education Association, we did work with your Navajo Nation Council, and there was a lot of them back then. And Ed T. Begay was their speaker. You guys remember? So all the school boards would get together, and they'd go in with NIEA, National Indian Ed Association, and he would tell them, and I got to sit in on this, and they had translators for me, so I kind of knew what was going on, but he would tell them, watch what you say. Watch what you say, and what we're here not for your one school that gets a new gymnasium or a cafeteria or a bus. We're here for all Navajo Nation schools. We're here to raise the appropriations for the Office of Indian Ed and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. That was before it was the Bureau of Indian Education. Pray before you talk. Stand up straight, be respectful, all of that. And all those years, I got to work with all your guys as politicians over all many years, and that's how it was. It's strict. We don't just go around there shooting from the hip or getting mad. And I got mad. My sister saw me get mad at that. We flew over there to meet with the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs, and he stood us up. And it made me mad because it was like, man, geez, we've been waiting a year for that. But that's how we're treated. Last week I saw him. Guess what? He apologized to us. And he said, you tell your people, I'm sorry, I'm going to meet with you. We're going to meet September. We're going to meet. Brian Newland, you guys all know that name. So we didn't quit. We're still going no matter how many roadblocks. So I'm going to just say that little bit. But our problems, they're growing. They're not shrinking. And they're developing every day. And we got to really work at the strides. But we can't let the unity stop us. And just give you an example of that. 1 year ago, up on this stage in Fort Berthold, we had a congressional briefing. We'd never done that before. Albert Johnson was there representing ABNDN. Cedric Black Eagle was there representing IPCI. Grandpa Earl there. Darrell Red Cloud there, South Dakota. Justin Jones. John Brady, Fort Hall Tribal Chairman, Lionel Boyer, all standing together in front of Congress. They were all on Zoom watching all their staff. Then we circled back when we did that field hearing in Oklahoma. First person we invited was Arlen Lightfoot, IPCI. Had them sit up here with us. Then we did consultation phone calls with Steve Moore, the lawyer, too, explaining every step of the way. We've explained to everybody what we're doing. Every step of the way, we've had a handout and friendship. Every step of the way. But to be unified, people have to behave in a way that allows unity, right? People have to. If you're we got a letter saying they all want to sit down and meet. Same time that letter, come on. Wife of one of their board members is disparaging our president on our own Facebook. And then all these emails come our way, Facebook posts. Same time, our hand was reached out in friendship. Steve Moore, yes, you, Steve Moore, calling Washington, D.C., disparaging us to National Congress of American Indians. So we got thick skin because of this medicine. We'll meet with anyone. But you have to behave in a way where you want unity. It can't be say something good in front of the YouTube and say something good in front of a psychedelic conference about whatever, I don't know, but it has to be real. So we're not going to wait. And we're not going to listen to a nonprofit that doesn't represent anybody. They're not elected by anybody. They're self-appointed. And Cody Swift was telling me they're his tribal leaders, that they are the tribal leaders. And I just said, geez, we have tribal leaders. They're elected. They have a constituent base. They have a representative body. They can look back and see people in back of them that are with them. We're not going to wait. And you guys can't wait either. You need to move forward. You move forward in a good way with honesty. Just keep going, because we're going to keep going. And we love being around each other. We enjoy it. In and out of the teepee. We've prayed. Even my niece, we were together 2 weeks ago in a peyote meeting. My brother, my uncle, he put up a meeting for me just to help me out a little bit just a few weeks ago too. John Bitsui put that meeting up, but he ran it, my uncle. Good loved ones care about somebody that much. That's how we think of each other. It's not a show, it's not fake. So we have your backs. We have your backs. You can go anywhere, Navajo Nation, and we have your backs. And you count. When they say you're an insignificant number, NAC, don't listen to that. It doesn't matter. It's what's right. What right, that's what matters. So that's just my simple message today, and I appreciate being here. And it's we took the hard road. We took the hard road. We could have done the shortcut too. We were a part of all that, and we backed off because it didn't align with our values. Our values. And when they want to say birth of a prayer, yes, indeed. 74 years ago, they prayed about this organization. They're all gone now. That started it. Just like we're all going to be all gone one day. And you guys can kind of look back and say, these ones, this is what they said. This is what they wanted to do. This is the prayer they had for all of us. So that's kind of my little message today, brother. You know, he put my boy to, I couldn't get him to sleep. He put him to sleep, or my talking did. I don't know, but it's good. And I'm gonna say this too. This is the last thing. Don't take it wrong. But we're gonna do our European American brothers a favor. We're gonna help them. We're gonna pity them. And sometimes they grow up, you hear that like a silver spoon. You guys all know what that means? Trust babies. Entitlement. Racial superiority. How they kind of feel sometimes. We're gonna do them, we're gonna love them so much. We're gonna do them a favor and say something they never hear? No. No, this is not for you. No, you cannot have this. No, we're not gonna let you take this mescaline and do all of this. And in saying no to them, and no, Cody Swift, you need to retire. You need to stop funding all this. Go back. Just stay where you are. Stay in your churches. Stay in your psychedelics. Leave us alone. And peyote don't even belong in the same sentence with another psychedelic, how they say it. It doesn't belong at a convention. So we have to love these non-Indians enough to say no, because they never hear it. And they grow up thinking they can take anything. And they're told that since they're little. And I know you guys probably feel that way sometimes when you see little kids, little white kids, you want to hug them because they're God's children, they're precious. They're not brought into the world to think that way, they're raised that way. And this society tells them that every day, you're number one. You can have it all. You could be president of the United States, you could be the best CEO in the country, you could live that dream, it's yours, this is your country. So they start out good, they're precious, they're beautiful little children, but then they grow up like that. And we're gonna do them a favor and say, no, this isn't yours. You can't have this. We don't approve, we don't consent. We're not gonna let you. And we're gonna pray for you to have ears. We're gonna pray for you to understand this law, how it is. We're gonna pray for you to find out all that you need to learn in life with your expressions, your ways, but not ours. It's ours. Creator gave it to us. And if he wanted it over there, he would have made it that way too. This is all man-made. This isn't, Creator had nothing to do with what's happening now. This is man-made. And it's because they think they can do it. And it's because we were quiet. And we concealed from ourselves our true circumstances for too long, but now we're waking up. We're waking up. So I say that, let's all wake up together. Aho.
Thank you, nephew, for enlightening us on this very important piece of initiative that we're engaged on. With the permission and with the backing of the Native American Church of North America. And we'll get to you, brother. We're almost shutting down here a little bit. I want to express our sincerest gratitude for bringing this into our mind, how we understand it. One of the things that I haven't heard all my years is my nephew says, we're taught to never fear a white man.
That's something I learned this year. The reason we had all these speakers, my brother here, and my impatient brother way over there, and some others that talk, this is what for delegations and church members, this is what we need to tell our leaders. This is what the elders are saying. This is what our initiative is. We want them to hear it because we just don't want to say, well, our elders say that and so forth. We heard it, we recorded it. That's why I wanted to express at this time why we brought in these speakers. My Che talking about the robe, my brother talking about a story how we discovered this, how it came to us. And also my Shanala over here talked about perpetuity, is that what do you call it? Perpetuity? Keeping it going, keeping it strong, the shield that you have. So, delegates, please put that in your mind, in your policy, and go back to your membership in your areas, all across the nation, also on the north side. This is the position of our beloved church, all Native American church members. We have a message to send when we go lobby again, coming September. It's not a gimmick. It's a very intestinal fortitude undertaking that we have to do. Thank you again, nephew. With this, I'd like to turn this back over to Mr. President.
Okay, Frank? We have a motion to adjourn, second by Wisconsin Dells. So will we have to retrieve the colors first, or can we do that after?
One day on the net, can we do it for tonight? We can retrieve it tomorrow night. Yeah. Can we do that?
Okay. All right. All in favor? I believe the lunch is almost here, so that's the host kind of wants to put the brakes on.
So be here in about 10 minutes. You guys please wait for 10 minutes. We don't want to be stuck with all that food.
So voting tools up, voting tools. $43 in favor, 43 in favor, oppose. No oppose, abstain. Okay, motion carried. Well, it is 18. So we recess until tomorrow, reconvene. Lunch will be, supper will be here in 10 minutes. Also, we have 2 prayer meetings going on. Also, we have some convention jackets. So FYI, there's limited jackets. They're only $100. It's expenses to the Capitol Hill, boots on the ground movements. So FYI. But also, for those that brought your shawl and your prayer robe, if you could come over here and sign. We have a prize for you. You know who you are. If you could come sign this paper real quick. It'd be nice to even put them on. We can take a picture by this banner. We also have a earphone